I'm pathetic. I have no value. I don't really know what my message is. I felt bad asking anyone I knew to buy a ticket to come here tonight. I feel worthless and like I'm nothing. These are messages that I've told myself every day for as long as I can remember. Our community is full of martyrs, men, women. A martyr is someone who does for everybody else at the expense of themselves because they don't believe that they are deserving. They don't believe they deserve to have their voice heard, their opinions heard, their needs met. They feel worthless. I'm a classic martyr. It's very hard for me to take care of myself. It's very hard for me to shop for myself. Even buying something as basic as a pair of socks, it's hard for me to make the purchase. I'll add things into my cart, and I'll start new tabs. I'll walk away, anything to escape the pain of taking care of myself. It's a comfortable, familiar feeling for me to not take care of myself. A few years ago, when my husband was on a very strict diet of only protein and vegetables, we were on a very tight budget at the time. And I would go to the store at the beginning of every week and figure out what to buy, what was on sale that week, which protein and vegetables, and I would buy him what he needed. And then I would buy for myself for the week a box of frozen pizza, a loaf of bread and cheese, and that's what I would subside on for the week. That's what I allotted for myself. And I felt very good at the time. I felt mature and responsible, like I was doing the right thing and taking care of someone else. And as I was in the grocery store, I'd be actively aware of other people adding things into their cart, sushi, expensive snacks, prepared foods, things I knew I wasn't buying. And I felt good at the time. But I really felt like an idiot because it wasn't about the roll of sushi for $6.99. It was about the fact that I couldn't buy myself something that I really wanted. That was such an uncomfortable feeling for me. I'd rather suppress what I want than actually get something for myself. When I was getting married, I needed a pair of shoes to go with my dress. So there were so many expenses related to the wedding. I didn't want to add one more. So I decided I was going to get myself a pair of shoes, cheap pumps from Target, and that's what I would wear to my wedding. I didn't like them. I knew that they were very ugly. But it felt so good to me to have something I didn't like at my wedding, the day that everybody dreams of. It felt so good to wear something that I wasn't really comfortable in because buying something that I liked that was expensive was too easy. There was no challenge involved. There was no suppression involved. These martyrish habits started for me very early on when I was a kid. My father was an undergrad, and my parents were doing everything they could to make ends meet. My father went to school during the day full time, and at night he was a mashgiach in the local bakery. My mother worked in school. She catered. She had a Shabbos bakery out of our house. We had boarders. My parents did everything they could, and they did everything right. But financial stress brings tension, and as a 6-year-old child, I swallowed this tension and the stress around me, and I internalized it. And I decided that I would not be an emotional burden or a financial burden on my parents. I didn't want to add to their load. I decided I couldn't be vulnerable. As the oldest of my siblings, I decided it was up to me to protect my siblings from the situation and protect my parents from the needs and wants of me and the rest of us kids. I felt that I was the bridge between the two. When I was 8 years old, I sat my sisters down for a meeting, and I told them that Mommy and Tati only have $1,000 left in the bank, so we have to be really careful about how we spend our money, because we don't want them to run out. This became kind of like a funny family story that we talk about, but it's so indicative as to how I felt as a child, so responsible for the family, so responsible for the people around me. My parents offered me to go to overnight camp. I couldn't take them up on the offer. I was too afraid I wouldn't have a good time, I wouldn't have fun, and that I'd be wasting their money, that I wasn't worth it. The problem with suppression is that these feelings don't stay down. It's like a whack-a-mole at an amusement park. You know that game that you have to push down the alligator and then it comes up somewhere else? Feelings never go away, and the longer they stay down, the stronger the release. A few months ago, my husband Sruli is sitting in the audience, brought Rosh to his company for some team building exercises, and they ended up hosting their own MicDrop event, during which he spoke about his journey through OCD and how he's really used it to shape him into the incredible person he is today. Now, when you take a marriage made up of somebody who has OCD and somebody who's a complete martyr, it can really all hit the fan. I found the perfect excuse for all my martyrdom, all my unhealthy habits. I found every reason why I shouldn't have a voice, why I shouldn't have opinions, why my needs don't matter. My husband has OCD. He's the first priority. I have to take care of him. Now, this was completely self-imposed. Sruli, for anyone who knows him, is the most selfless, giving, thoughtful, sensitive person who is always ready to help, but I wouldn't let him. I built this wall around me of independence and resilience and strength, and I wouldn't let anyone in. I was so content with taking care of everyone else and not having anyone take care of me. It was such a good feeling for me. But this is not sustainable. And this wall of independence and resilience was slowly starting to crumble. I did not recognize myself in the mirror. I wasn't proud of the mother that I was. I wasn't proud of the wife that I was. And it was at a particularly hard time. Finances were hard. Jobs were stressful. Life was stressful. And this was all exacerbated by my constant suppression of my feelings. One day, I took my kids into my room, my then 2 little babies, and my husband had not yet come home from work. I was about to start on bed and bath routine, and I locked the door. And I called my mother crying, and I told her, I just locked the door of my room, and I don't want to unlock it. I can't do this anymore. To which she responded, find yourself a therapist, make an appointment, and I'm sending you a check in the mail. This was the most important, valuable gift she could have given me. She knew I needed help, and she knew that I didn't have the means to get it. I found myself a therapist. I made an appointment, and I started the journey of unraveling these deeply ingrained feelings, why they were, and how to detach from them. Self-help, self-development, self-care. There are all these buzzwords today. Everybody's talking about it. But I don't want this to be another self-care speech. I don't want to jump on the manicures, facials, coffee with friends, hashtag, although those are very important. I'm talking about a deeper level of self-care. I'm talking about emotional self-care, mental self-care. When you find yourself reacting inappropriately to a situation that does not warrant that kind of reaction, when you find yourself using your hands instead of your words, when you find yourself so bogged down by daily responsibilities, emotionally overwhelmed by life, you need help, and that's okay. You need to start the journey of fixing you. This martyrish cycle of suppressing your needs, feeling good about it because you feel like you're helping someone else, and then feeling such self-hatred because why can't you just take care of yourself? What's wrong with you? This cycle doesn't just stay in your head. And your kids will pick up on it, and it will become generational. You are your child's first and most important role model. The way you react and relate to yourself and the world around you will ultimately be the way they react and they relate to themselves and the world around them. You become the voice in their head and their go-to. I have a child who's very similar to me in personality, and she's pretty buttoned up. She has a hard time expressing herself. And my husband and I decided we want to send her for therapy to help her find her footing and her confidence. And going through this journey with her, I realized that so many of the things the therapist was teaching her, so many of the messages I related to, so many of the skills she was trying to build with her applied to me. And it took getting out of my own head and seeing things from another perspective for me to realize that I'm not pathetic, and I am valuable, and I do have a message, and I am going to share it. I've learned how to break my cycle. How are you going to break yours?